Hey everybody, in this video, I'm going to share with you how I went about validating a potential SaaS idea that I had just using outbound email. And it took just about a week to get the critical mass of data that I was looking for. And from there, I'll show you my thought process, how I went about validating the SaaS, as well as potential next steps that I got based on the feedback. Um, so this is the validation strategy that I thought through. First, think through the jobs to be done framework. You want to define what job or problem like your SaaS will solve, specifically the job, because based on the jobs to be done framework, your client or customer is basically hiring your SaaS to do a job for them. For this example, the job would be a social media content manager. And then from there, develop a lead magnet. So create some free deliverable or free type of PDF, something free for the customer to easily say yes to, like a low friction ask. From there, build your targeted list, identify leads fitting your SaaS's ICP, and then offer that lead magnet to people. Rob Walling said, and it has a quote too. It's like, when you're validating your SaaS, think of like how you would actually go to market and then go to market, right? So this ICP, this offer, I think would have a good fit for outbound email. And I was actually pretty right, just in the hypothesis. As you see here, we sent out, all of these are one-step campaigns. So we sent out close to like 4,000 emails, and got a pretty high like reply rate clip, as well as a pretty high like positive reply rate. So the lead magnet for actual this service or the SaaS was that I was going to take their most recent podcast and then break it down into tweets, LinkedIn posts, newsletter, and a blog article. And they can like pick and choose. There are solutions out there that do this, but I was innovating on the pricing model instead of a subscription. It had been a one-time payment. So the MVP behind this, all I did was build the backend service for this. So like no UI, no login, and the output was just a couple of different PDFs, right? It was very, very simple and straightforward. The backend MVP took maybe a day, a couple hours just to get this up and to hook up the different APIs like Whisper and Claude and OpenAI and a couple others that I put in. But we're just validating, right? There's no sense of building out a UI or an authentication system. I just want to streamline it as much as possible. It's like, all right, do these people even care about their latest podcast getting transcribed and broken up into different tweets, actionable takeaways, stuff like that? So kept it very, very lean, and kind of doing the things that don't scale. Because based on when a prospect said, yeah, I would love to see that. Just had to go into, your IDE of choice and run the code, and you get the output that way, and you manually send over like the PDFs, right? But, when you're validating this part, right? There's no sense in making it super complex. Like what if no one replied and I just spent, a whole week building UI and a clerk authentication, right? And it just doesn't make any sense. So, and this is kind of like the feedback loop, right? We send over the samples, we collect the feedback, like, oh, maybe a prospect really liked the tweets, but they're confused about the newsletter. Like they thought, for example, I was a newsletter service, which is also a good idea to layer a productized service on top of this SaaS, right? Which is actually something we'll get to in a little bit. But from there, we can make iterations like for example, if they already have content, right, we could put that into the writing style to make it, a little bit tweaks, like that. Just something to have on the roadmap. But so key lessons learned, like validate first, like always try to, I personally think you should always try to build before always try to sell before you build, just to confirm the demand. And if you are going to build, just make it as streamlined as possible. And then you could kind of sell it as like a service, honestly, before you SaaSify it. And then gathering feedback. you definitely want to have the feedback, to have the feedback loop to see like where can you improve, what's your customer asking for. For example, we had one customer specifically, they didn't really want the newsletter, but they wanted the tweets, right? And if you get a couple of different of those, you're like, all right, now we can pivot. Instead of offering a bunch of different things, we'd be like, all right, now you get 20 tweets based on your latest podcast, right? And then focus on early adopters, right? You really want to wow them, and then later have them as like your design partners, or people that can build the solution with you. Um, and then how to extend this. This is kind of like the next steps that I was thinking of. Um, Instead of just making this a SaaS, you can make this like a productized service, make it super tech enabled, as the delivery and fulfillment like machine or like mechanism, right? And you can actually probably charge like a higher ticket, instead of being like, hey, here's my SaaS at 49 bucks a month. You could productize this, be like, yeah, it's actually like 199, and then you have the human in the loop, or stuff like that. You could upsell them, or just having like a services business on top of your SaaS. Um, I know like this is like really picking up steam, and I've seen this applied to a bunch of different softwares as well, especially like enterprise, where um, they hire like a professional services to make sure like there's done correctly, things like that. They just want like a done for you service, and then you could have the SaaS as like the fulfillment, and it's completely automated, and it's pennies to really fulfill it, and then you could just charge that have that arbitrage, right? You have the API costs, and then you just mark that up, right? Um, so this is something I'm thinking of. Having the service component on top of SaaSes, and one person specifically said, I want to make sure that there's a human in the loop. Like, this is great, it's generated by AI, you do it really quickly, but if it's just AI, we don't like that. We want a human in the loop, just to check off a couple of different things. So again, it's good feedback to have. But that's it. That's pretty much how I went about going to validate a SaaS. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Rob Walling has a really good quote. When you're validating it, just treat it as like you're actually going to market, and see what happens, right? So I'm pretty happy with the results here. We're going to try to extend this, see if we can make it into a productized service, or even a done for you service, where we have this as a delivery mechanism running in the background to really help with workflows, and then of course add some more on the top there. But yeah, this is how I went about it. Hopefully this helps you think through, validating your potential next SaaS idea. If you have any other questions, or you want me to help you validate your next SaaS idea, drop a comment in or the comment section below, and let me know if you have any other questions.